everyone out there in Supernal land. Welcome to another wonderful interview. Today we have the magical and divine Artemis, who is the creator of Egyptian emotional clearing technique, also known as EECT, and also raindrop technique. She works with the Young Living essential oils. Welcome, Artemis.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here with us today. I'd like to ask you to share with us a little bit about yourself. Who is Artemis?
I often say that I'm very multidimensional because I have so many areas of passion, but I've always been interested in the concept of how we can take ourselves from struggle into joy. And so whether that's through the use of tools and meditation techniques, and also whether that's through mindset, essential oils, working with our own spirit, all of those things are of interest to me. So the spiritual path and animals are two of my great passions.
Magnificent. And so the Young Living essential oils, you have chosen them as one of your amazing tools. So how did you come to be working with those oils?
Many years ago, I had quite a collection of essential oils, and so I liked essential oils. I'd first encountered them when I was in my early 20s. And then I heard about the Young Living brand, and I really resonated with the man who created that brand, Gary Young. And I resonated with his message to the world about the power of essential oils. It opened my eyes to seeing that essential oils aren't just a pretty smell. They're actually a very potent tool for transformation. And that's emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual transformation. And when I started using them, so I decided that I would explore this range. The results that I had were so profound and so powerful that I quickly realized that I was holding in my hands something very special and a tool that would make a difference in a lot of people's lives, including my own.
Wonderful. So when we first connected and talked about having a chat together, we were looking at the detoxing edition of the magazine, and we were exploring because I had just been through a training course with you, the Egyptian emotional clearing technique. We were exploring how it is that the essential oils detox emotionally. So can you share with us a little bit about a personal change that you went through from that emotional detoxing point of view in your life?
I have so many stories about the way that these oils have impacted me. And you know, what you refer to as emotional detox, I would refer to as an emotional release. And there have been times that I've used an oil on myself or on someone that I've cared about, and I might have thought that this oil was just going to calm that person down, but then there'll be a big emotional release happens. It's like it triggers something within them. And my awareness of these oils is that they are nature's gift to us, and they're always working to bring us into a place of balance. So if I put an oil on you and your balance needs to be happening on a physical level, then you will have a physical experience from that oil. And then I might put the oil on myself, and my balance may need to be the release of some pent-up emotion. This is one of the things that keeps me so fascinated about the Young Living oils, because we can put them on our skin, and I'm always loving choosing my oils for the day, because that makes me a human diffuser. So I'm going to be impacting everyone that comes around me. So that oil that goes on my skin, it's going to absorb in through my skin, and it's going to have a physical effect on me. But if I put an oil in the diffuser, or when I'm breathing in the oil that I put on my skin, that oil is going to have a different way of working with the body. So when I breathe it in, it goes up my nose, so I'm smelling it, and it goes to a membrane at the top of the nose, the olfactory epithelium, which has little hairs in it, and it triggers those hairs, and that actually sends a signal to the limbic region of the brain, and that's what we call the subconscious brain. So by stimulating the subconscious, aromas of any kind, including essential oils, have a unique ability to stir up memories for us and their associated emotions. So I love the fact that at my fingertips is this tool that's going to bring awareness to my mind. So it's going to help me mentally. Like, some essential oils are amazing for helping the sharpness of our mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to help me on that level. It's going to assist me physically, and it's going to have an impact emotionally. And I've also noticed that part of the brain where we store our emotions and our memories is the same part of our brain that's responsible for our spiritual phenomena. So many people, when they start using the Young Living essential oils, they experience a heightened sense of spiritual awareness. They're more connected with themselves, they're more connected with others. And it's just so beautiful to see that we have something in our world that can impact every part of our life, not just one narrow bandwidth.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I would encourage people to perhaps look a little bit more into the exceptional quality of this particular therapeutic grade essential oil, and because we could go on, I know, for a long time talking about that, but just could you share just a little bit about Gary Young's vision for the essential oils with the world?
I had the privilege of meeting Gary Young many times and actually spending time with him. He's the founder of Young Living Essential Oils. And he had had a personal journey that had caused him to be paralyzed and unable to walk. And he had been drawn to studying natural therapies. So he became a naturopathic physician in the United States. And through his work with natural therapies, he regained the ability to walk. But once he encountered really high quality essential oils, he found that he didn't just walk, he thrived. It made such a difference to him that he just, in his heart, he just went, I want to make these oils available, this quality of essential oil available to everyone on the planet. And so his mission has always been to bring the Young Living oils into every home of the world, just so that other people can experience what he's experienced in the power of the essential oils. And I can certainly attest to that. I've been using the Young Living oils for 25 years now, and I never cease to be amazed at the frequent experiences I'm having, the wow experiences that I'm having and that other people around me are having.
Yes, I can echo that, having been working with them myself for, I think it must be about 7 years now. I couldn't speak highly enough of them. They're extraordinary. And the breakthroughs that I've personally had with them are, quite mind-blowing and heart-opening and life-transforming. So coming back to the emotional side of things, can we talk about the origins of Egyptian emotional clearing technique? And because that's a fascinating story, and how it is that how it is transferred into an enormous, wonderful heart gift of yours to humanity, please.
Absolutely. So Gary Young, the founder of Young Living, when he was first starting his journey into essential oils, he went to Egypt. And when he was there, he was privileged to go into a room that had hieroglyphs around the walls. And he videoed and photographed those hieroglyphs, and he got them interpreted. And they showed an anointing ritual that the pharaohs used to go through prior to their death, and also that the priests and priestesses would go through prior to moving to the next level of priesthood. And that anointing ritual involved essential oils, and it went for 3 days and 3 nights. The person receiving it would have no food in that time, so it was literally a fast. They would just have water, and they would be receiving essential oils and be anointed with essential oils. And during that time, they'd be lying on a stone slab, and they had 2 people giving to them. And there's a beautiful photograph that Gary took where one of the priests was on the table receiving, and he had his arm thrown up. And we could even imagine seeing that it was like he was having an emotional release. That's what it looked like. And so that inspired Gary to understand that the oils have such a power emotionally, and that power goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. Like, that was something that the Egyptians used. It's actually something I believe the Atlanteans used as well. So we have this incredible ancient history of the use of essential oils in anointing.
Mm.
And that is what inspired Gary Young to create some specific blends of essential oils that would help with them. And I have been inspired by a very simple version of the technique that he created. I've been inspired to take more of the Egyptian ritual from everything he taught us about how this ritual was done in ancient Egypt, and put together a modality called the Egyptian emotional clearing technique. I seem to be having a lot of cat love today while we're on this interview.
Perfect.
They know where the love is happening. Right from the moment that I started using this anointing technique, I've seen really powerful impacts from it. And people will often say to me, well, I use oils every day anyway. Why do I need an anointing technique? You know, why can't I just wake up of a morning and choose my oil to put on, and then a few hours later I might feel I need to put a different oil on? Like, why is that any different to putting it together as a sequence? With a sequence, it's like the sum of the parts, the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts. And I put this down to intention, that when we go into an anointing ritual, we are going in with an intention in mind. We're going in with something in our world that isn't unfolding quite the way we want it to. So something in ourself that we feel is hindering us from being the best that we can be. And so we're setting an intention to unlock or open up that world for ourselves, to gain insight, to gain clarity, to gain transformation. And as soon as we've got that intention, which is always the start of the ritual, I always start with a water ritual, starting and finishing, which is what the ancient Egyptians did. And also I start with the setting of intention. Once we do that, everything that happens after that can be incredibly synchronistic and powerful. It's like we are putting an oil on and going, you know, I put on abundance oil on my wrist, so I'm affirming for abundance for the day. Here, when we're doing a sequence of oils, we're literally inviting ourselves into a deep, deep state of consciousness, a deep, deep state of presence with ourselves, where it's like a symphony begins, a harmonic symphony as we use these oils. And that symphony, just like when we listen to a beautiful piece of music or we watch an emotional movie, it takes us somewhere, and one thought layers on another thought, layers on another thought, and then we get an idea, and then we get an emotion come up or a memory come up. And it allows spirit to work with us using our intention to carry us somewhere that we wouldn't otherwise get to. And I've seen, you asked me, what have I personally seen? We have an oil blend called Valor. Valor has the same frequency as our skeleton. It is what we call the rescue remedy of essential oils. And I use Valor oil pretty much every single day. I put it on my feet. Yet this one day that I was performing this ritual on myself, I put the Valor oil on my feet. And when I was doing it on myself in that instance rather than doing it on someone else. When I put my hands on my feet, I had this moment of just looking at my hands, and I saw through my hands, it's like they became the symbol of everything that is kind and genuine and truly heart-based about me. And I looked at my hand with such awe, like I was looking at an angel. And I really recognized the beautiful love that I have in my heart and the beautiful spirit that I carry. And it was an awareness that has stayed with me for many months since that experience. And it's not one, even though I've used Valor for almost 25 years, I've never had that particular experience with it. So it's like that day, it called something out of me that I needed to acknowledge. I was hurting that day when I went and started that ritual. I was seeking guidance. But where spirit took me was first and foremost into recognizing my own spirit and my own heart. And that was an incredible gift.
And that's beautiful, because the name Valor is about that great spirit, really, whilst the frequency is quite different, being skeletal. That's a beautiful explanation, because I could echo similarly. Different oils, different days, different experiences. Because frequency is changing all of the time in us and around us, cosmically, locally, in our families, our pets, everything. So it's not just about us, it's about the interconnectedness of all of creation, which is beautiful.
There's a medical doctor in France called Dr. Daniel Penouel, and he's written a book. And in that book, he says that essential oils act with a godlike intelligence. Every time I'll use an oil, it's according to what I need. And it's like that higher awareness, whether you call that energy God, spirit, nature, it has that natural harmonizing effect on us. It knows when we're out of balance, and it knows exactly where it needs to go to bring us into balance, to bring us back onto our path, onto our center, into our heart. And that for me has actually been one of the joys of working with these oils, because my passion is my spiritual path and nature and animals and all the connection I get from that. This has been such a beautiful complement to everything that's important to me. And I see so many miracles happening with just the shifts that occur in people's faces. They get off the table after receiving a treatment, and something's happened for them. And I've often said, when you go into an Egyptian emotional clearing technique, you'll often get something very different to what you expected. I had one lady that had been through an incredibly traumatic experience. She had been slipped a roofie in a bar and she'd been raped. And when this started to come to the surface for her, she and I got talking about oils that may assist her with working through that emotional journey. And she decided to book in for an Egyptian emotional clearing technique, but she was really nervous about it. In her mind, she expected that the emotions would be so intense that she wasn't even sure if she'd be able to cope with the emotional journey that it would inspire. But using the understanding that spirit knows exactly where we need to go first. For her, when I did the Egyptian emotional clearing technique on her, it took her into a bliss state. It cocooned her. She felt so safe. She felt so nurtured. And you can imagine, having been through such a traumatic, violating experience, her nervous system was on edge. She was really struggling around surrender. So she didn't actually need to start with a powerful emotional release. What she needed was to be held in a place of safety so that she could reintegrate back to herself and reconnect. And from there, she's gone on to confront the people that raped her. Like, she's had amazing transformation. And the essential oils and the Egyptian emotional clearing technique have been her allies in her journey. It's still her journey. So none of these things take away from the fact that we are at its core, and it won't ever take us somewhere that we will not go or that isn't right for us. And I love that. As a practitioner, I love having a modality that is so sensitive to someone's needs that it takes them exactly where they need to go with their consent. And sometimes our consent is on an inner level. I once was demonstrating the use of valor oil, using this valor balance that we do. I was demonstrating it at a Mind Body Spirit Festival. And one of the ladies up on stage who put her hand up to receive a demonstration, when I was holding her feet with the valor oil, she burst into tears. And she was, obviously, when you're up on stage with hundreds of people in front of you, you really aren't looking for an emotional release to happen. But in her case, it was like her spirit went, oh, thank God, I'm finally somewhere that I can actually reconnect like this. So, she may not have had conscious consent to, oh, yes, I'm happy to go up on stage and have a cry. But a part of her, it just, like, she needed. Yeah, she needed that. And I love that wisdom, because we get exactly what we need emotionally that's going to help us heal the rifts that have happened in our life. Those emotional rifts, when we don't deal with those, that's what paves, to me, is such a fundamental practice that all of us can be doing, is, coming back to our center and really being able to cultivate the transformation and the mindfulness around any issues we have in our life. And I love having Egyptian emotional clearing technique to do that. But I actually have something else I'd love to share, Freya. Yeah, like a year ago, or just over a year ago, my mum passed away. And I was visiting her the day before, but that particular day I wasn't at the hospital when she passed. But I was able to go there, within an hour of her passing. And I went there with my sister, and together we decided to do a complete Egyptian emotional clearing technique on our mum.
Wow.
So we anointed her with all of the 13 to 14 oils we use in that modality. And normally we would do this in silence. So we would put an oil on, we would pause, we'd do some energy work. But in this instance, we took the opportunity, the two of us, as her two daughters, to share with her spirit what we loved about her and happy memories. And it was such a beautiful experience that about halfway through the process, this incredible state of peace came over us. And I know that Mum's spirit really felt the love that was present in the anointing process we did for her. And I also know how profoundly it helped me And even now, looking back, I'm so grateful that I did that. It leaves Mum's death, that could have been a very traumatic last memory of her. It's instead replaced it with a really beautiful heart-based memory of the farewell that my sister and I were able to give her. And I'm really grateful to have that.
What an extraordinary honouring of your mother. And thank you for sharing with us something so very personal. And, having experienced Egyptian emotional clearing technique myself, it's an interesting name because it says technique, but it is a ritual. It is a real honouring. Every single step of the way is this profound experience for the facilitator, and I feel the recipient as well. And in our culture, death has been something we haven't been very comfortable to speak about, to understand. It brings up fear for people often. For myself personally, I see it as a birth, and to have such an extraordinary experience in your rebirth, your leaving of this life and going on to the next. What an exquisite gift. I'm sure that wherever your mother is, everywhere, is, just radiating love back to you for that incredible gift. And if it's okay, Artemis, I'd like to just reflect on a couple of things that you've shared as well, coming back to two things. One was, you mentioned how people come off the table and they look different, their face is different. Well, after I went through the training of Egyptian emotional clearing technique with you, I put a post up of you and I, a photo of you and I, from after the course, from out the front of the beautiful place, the retreat center that we were at. And there were so many comments from people. They said, wow, they were like, that it has been the longest time since I've seen somebody come out of a training looking so radiant. And that is how I felt inside. I felt radiant and I felt relieved, and I felt expanded, more heart-centered, more present, and all of those wonderful things that we wish to feel through going through an experience in a session or a training. And also for myself, I had waited 5 years to do this training. I had wanted to do it for a very long time. In fact, as soon as I heard the name of it, I was like, oh, that's for me. But as you said, it's like, things happen in life and in releasing process exactly as they're meant to happen. So whatever needed to transpire for my ability to actually front up and be present for something so profound had to be what it was. And to share one little snippet of what I went through in that experience, it is actually the perfect reflection of how you said Gary perceived that the image on the wall in the temple of Isis, where the priest, or it was a priest, I think, wasn't a pharaoh, or priest or pharaoh, was on the table and his arm went up, which gave Gary the indication that this was an emotional releasing process. That is exactly what happened to me when I went through my big release. And I would like to say I facilitate, teach another modality, facilitates several, and had been working specifically on accessing something that I knew was there that I had been unable to tap into, even with exceptionally good shamanic modalities. And what I couldn't give you an exactly what allowed it to occur. I think two things: the obviously the willingness of me going, I'm going to clear this, like I'm going to realize whatever this is and release it so that I can transform. But also the oils, obviously, but it's also the process. Like, it's the honoring in the entire process that actually allowed that. And for me personally, it was something that was it was a trauma that was suppressed emotionally, one thing, but also suppressed through medical intervention. And so sometimes when we have a situation like that, it's even more difficult to access that kind of information in the emotional body or cellular memory, because it's not just us going, I don't want to have to remember that. It's something else that's there holding that, as well as in the situation for myself, it was the words and actions of the medical staff that further compounded that by saying, she won't remember anyway. The anesthetic will prevent her from remembering. You know, when you're claircognizant, you have capability to be outside of your body, to be present with other things, be aware of everything that's going on. You know, this in the superconscious state that we can access, all of those things can be remembered or known. With people like myself, that's you know, it's not difficult normally, but with multi-layered things going on like that, I had found it, I just could not get to it. So I thought it was really important to share that for people, because sometimes, you know, we find ourselves, no matter how much work we've done, how many modalities we've done, all of these sorts of things, there's always something that will just get us there. And so for me personally, I wish to share that because of the profundity of what's capable through the essential oils and through the technique and the ritual that it is. So I hope that will benefit others, you know. So I can highly recommend, if anyone's ready to release, to be held in sacred space, to be held in the heart of the divine, and any kind of willingness to transform, to make real transformation in your life, then the essential oils, and particularly the process of releasing through Egyptian emotional clearing technique, is phenomenal. So get amongst it, I say. So the essential oils and animals, and Egyptian emotional clearing technique, animals, because that is another major passion of yours. And how does that work?
I'll preface it by saying the main animals that I choose to use the essential oils on are dogs and horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a full Egyptian emotional clearing technique on many occasions on dogs and horses, and even once on a camel, who had lost her calf, and for a whole year since her calf had been born, stillborn, she had been miserable. And I did this complete Egyptian emotional clearing technique on her. And I got to this point of one of our oil blends that we use is called Inner Child. And I put that on her navel. and I held her. And then I just had the feeling like as I held her, I was just imagining that she was pregnant again and growing this beautiful, healthy calf, and then giving birth to it. And I just crouched down at that moment because I felt like I was the calf. And she reached around and kissed me on the lips. So it was such an incredible experience. And I've found that when I work on dogs and horses, they're incredibly attuned to what I'm doing. Cats are much more sensitive to essential oils. So my cats experience essential oils more. Yeah, I'm talking about you. They experience it more through the fact that I'm diffusing essential oil-based cleaners in the home. So my cats are incredibly healthy. Yes, you are. And at the same time, I don't often put oils onto my cats. And if anyone was considering doing that for their cats, I would say to you, just seek some good advice on that, because cats can't process through the plant chemicals the same way that dogs and horses can. So we can easily overload a cat. So that's why for me, one of the core basics of using essential oils on cats is that I'll almost always dilute the oil, and I use it very sparingly, just as needed. I'd prefer to just have them in a very healthy, non-toxic environment. But when it comes to dogs and horses, many of them, just through allowing them to see the association between these smells and the pampering they receive, the massaging, the cuddles, the love, they come to love essential oils just as much as we do. I had my full case with 130 essential oils in it, all with their lids on, but there was still lots of aroma coming from that case. And I had it in the middle of a room, and I was running a class with a vet, actually a holistic vet, and we were teaching about how to use essential oils on dogs. And the dog that was our demo dog raced to the center of the room, got down on my case and started rolling back and forth just to cover its back with essential oils. So, we've had amazing experiences with even traumatized dogs that will select the oil they want. If you put a row of essential oils up, they'll actually go with their nose and tell you which one is for them.
Amazing.
So really, I could talk about any of these topics for hours, but
I wish we had hours.
Another time. Thanks, Freya.
Artemis, thank you so much. It has been an absolute joy to have you here and to share with you all of these amazing aspects of essential oils and how it is that we can emotionally release, which effectively detoxifies us and allows us to become the most amazing version of ourselves that we can possibly become. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. I know so much more about Artemis's journey, how much she has actually put into pursuing the service of humanity through thick and thin. And I just, thank you, Artemis. I honor you. I honor your work. And it's an absolute joy. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Thank you so much, Freya.
Mwah.